Hello, and welcome to the Next Level Loan Officers Podcast, the number one podcast for loan officers by loan officers.
With real originators in the trenches, just like you every single day.
If they can go there, how come I can't go there? Well, you can.
Like if you don't water your plants, you don't have future crops. You can't feed your family. You can't make a living. This is watering your crops.
You have to find your community and you have to dig in.
If it wasn't for you guys, I can tell you, probably my trajectory would have been a completely different one.
We'll see you on the next Level Loan Officers Podcast.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Next Level Loan Officers Podcast. My name is Shane Kidwell, one of the founders and coaches here at Next Level. And man, we got a good one today. Yeah, many people, nearly everyone I talk to wants more leads. In fact, I don't know anyone who doesn't want more leads, especially in a market like today. And they want to have a done for you system. They want to be able to click an easy button and have those leads. And so they want to buy leads. But, you know, we get called all the time on leads and the misnomers. There's a lot of myth. There's a lot of misstated facts from the lead industry about what you can convert at, where you can buy your leads, and all things online leads. And so I went out and found a guy whose filter was broke and was going to give us nothing but the truth, the unfiltered version, the almost got you kicked off Twitter version. And we've got the guy, the man, the myth, the legend, Luke Shankula. My man, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to sort of dive into this topic. It's something I'm passionate about. And if you've seen any of my social media posts at any point in the last few years, you know that I talk about calling the leads a lot. So I'm excited to dive in, man. I don't know exactly where you want me to go with that, but I got a plethora of ways we can take this.
Dude, just like this is oftentimes our podcast is a car rolling down a hill with no brakes.
Sweet.
So that's where we are, man. So like, yeah, just, I mean, you've been on all sides of the mortgage, like fence, I guess I would say. And there's more than two sides. You've been an account executive. You've been an originator. You now own and operate and run and advertise a company that's generating paid lead traffic. And
Sure.
It's one of those things where, you know, in the last season, everyone just said, hey, man, I just want to, like, I don't have time to buy. I don't need to buy online leads, right? Like I got my database and yeah, I mean, leads are falling out of the trees not because of us, almost in spite of us, right? Because the skills needed to be a top originator, a well-balanced mortgage athlete, we're not being like really honed in the last season. It was a refi boom and it was great. And so now we're here. And we have always preached inside of Next Level. And I have just personally having multiple streams of revenue. And that comes from different types of lead sources, whether that's your past client database, your referral partners, mainly real estate agents, online leads, niche, non-QM. And so I think it's really important that people understand like what they're getting into, the truth behind it, you know, and because again, like you've said this, I don't know, hundreds of times, it's typically not the lead's fault that it doesn't convert.
Yeah.
It's the person managing, it's the person buying them. It's the wrong expectation. So just give us a little bit of a background on where you've been, how you got here, and then let's just dive right into all things online paid leads.
Sure, man. So yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for about 6 years, doing paid ads for loan officers, helping them grow their business. I've done stuff in other niches as well, but for the last 4 years, it's just been strictly with loan officers. And one of the things that I have found over the years is so many loan officers are looking for like a magical lead source in the sky that like pumps out referral quality leads, right? And unfortunately, there's no such thing as referral quality leads when it comes from something like an online lead source. Referrals are warm. Referrals come with borrowed trust. And by that definition, you're never going to find a lead that's warmer than a referral lead. Referral leads are the best. I'm by no means saying anything against referral leads. I love referral leads. I think it's the best way you should build your business, and it's a foundational part of your business. That being said, so many times people think that they can approach online leads the way they approach referrals. And they think that, hey, you know what? If I buy a bunch of leads, it'll magically turn into money. Here's the problem though, right? If you put a bunch of leads into a broken system, you're just going to get broken results, right? So by thinking that you can pay some money because you're paying money, you just deserve to have closed loans. That's just not how this works, right? And so what I found over the years is a couple things, right? One, lead quality is fairly subjective. If you talk to some of the sharks out there, the guys that have done lead gen, consumer direct people, they've worked everything, right? Trigger leads, probably HUD leads, things like that, US HUD leads, things like that, right? They've worked all types of different leads. And obviously there is really a range in quality, but I've heard of people converting anything, right? There's people that can convert any lead that gets in front of them. And really it comes down to process from contact to sales process, to define next steps, to getting them into contract, to getting docs back. Those are all bottlenecks in a process that what works for referrals is not going to work for leads, right? And so we can get deep into any of those subjects, but typically the main bottleneck is calling the leads, right? Like the main bottleneck that most people have is they think that they can call someone twice, and if they don't answer after 2 calls, that's a bad lead. Those are tire kickers, right? So that's the biggest sort of misconception. And it's interesting because, talking with some of my friends, even in this space that are top producers, they're calling the referral leads 7 times before they give up. But yet most loan officers are calling internet leads twice and giving up. And I don't even want to talk about what they're doing with the referrals, because if you're only calling twice from a referral who's warm and wants to talk to you, like that blows my mind. Like you're probably leaving thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of money on the table every single year.
So Luke, let me ask you. So when it comes to online leads, you've mentioned calling the lead. Like that's obviously from what I understand, the number one way to convert a lead.
Sure.
What a lot of LOs want to do is they want to take the path of least resistance, which means that they would like to be let down gently. So
Sure.
What do? They do email campaigns, texting campaigns, video campaigns, everything but calling a lead.
Sure.
Because when you call a lead, they can say, don't ever call me again.
Right.
I didn't sign up for this. And that's that rejection. So from what I'm understanding, phone call is still the number one way to convert these, right?
Well, it's all of the above, I say. In my opinion, it's all of the above. It's texting, it's emailing, it's voicemail drops, it's videos. If you can do videos, that's obviously going to be good. But at the end of the day, like our sales mechanism as salespeople is the phone, right? So a text message is selling a phone conversation. An email is selling a phone conversation. Our job with those mediums is not to sell someone on our thing. The goal with those conversations is to start a conversation, get them to the point where they feel like they trust us enough where they're willing to jump on a phone call. And then that's where us as salespeople get to do our best work over the phone, right? You get to pick up the phone and you follow a specific process and you turn them into an application and things like that, right? And there's some other nuances there as well, but that's the main thing is people are trying to sell via text and email. And I see this all the time. I check CRMs. There's massive, massive text messages. The other thing to remember is these mediums, like you can't communicate via text the way you communicate via email. These are 2 separate mediums. You have to think about, how do I communicate via text on a daily basis with my friend? Short, punchy, like sometimes you abbreviate things. Like
emojis,
you have to think
making
about the
fun
same
of each
thing.
other.
100%.
Yeah.
So people don't think about it that way. And they're like, oh, I need to sell this person right now. And it's like, no, confirm some information. How long have you been in the market? Where are you looking? What's going on? How's your family? Whatever, right? Like whatever questions you want to ask. But it always comes down to like, we're starting a conversation and we're trying to gain trust. Because again, referrals come with borrowed trust. The person that's referring to them, they have imparted partial trust because the person that they're referring trusts them, right? So you are literally receiving borrowed trust. You can just be like semi-competent in this conversation and you're going to get the deal. You don't have to be good, right? But when it comes to internet leads or leads in general, like you actually have to be good at sales, right? You actually have to understand what it takes to have a sales conversation and to take someone from cold to closed. It's not the same process. So again, you could fumble it. You could fumble everything in a referral process. As long as you sound competent to them, they're going to work with you because you have that trust.
So maybe what oftentimes happens is we've, as an industry, built up this false confidence because we close a referral lead and we go, well, my process, I call them once, I send one email. That's the way I do it. And if they don't like it, I don't work with them. And look how successful I am. in the last season.
Yes.
We equate that as like, this is the gold standard, when the reality is it's not the gold standard. We're just lucky to get by because referral partners and all the work we do with them, it's kind of almost like we're like grandfathered into getting that deal because of previous effort, not what we're currently doing with that person.
It's the difference between sales and relationship building. Most loan officers are fantastic at building relationships. No offense, most people are not great at sales. And what I mean by sales is like literally taking someone who's cold, who doesn't know who you are, who doesn't trust you, no like or trust any of that thing, and turning them into a deal. That takes another level of sales because you have to create trust and you have to hold a different frame in terms of the conversation. You actually have to be the expert. And if you can't establish the expert frame and they take over the conversation, you're going to lose the sale. If you're asking the wrong questions, if you're asking them in the wrong way, if you sound like you're interrogating them, if you're not following the process every single time, that's another problem, because how do you have KPIs around your conversion if you literally have a different conversation every single time you have a phone call? So those are all things, again, people don't think about when they're like, oh, I'm going to buy some leads. It's going to turn into $1 million. It's like, well, it can. There's a reason why Rocket Mortgage, Veterans United, these companies that are spending millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars on direct-to-consumer advertising are some of the top dogs in the industry. It's not because lead generation doesn't work. It's because they have perfected the process that it takes to convert leads. So again, so many times, I mean, I was just talking about this before we got on the air, but you know, loan officers a lot of times will be like, oh, I worked with this company, I worked with Zillow and Zillow leads sucked. And I worked with this other company and they sucked. And I worked with this company and they sucked. I'm like, all right, dude, you've worked with 3 or 4 or 5 agencies and all of them suck. Not a single one of them has gotten you good leads. Come on, man. Like at some point you have to start pointing the finger back at yourself and say, hey, maybe I have to change the way that I approach these leads. Again, I know filter broken, whatever you want to say, but it's truth.
And I think also too, we need to actually redefine the definition of a good lead.
Right.
So just take a little bit of time here and kind of walk us through resetting the expectation. What is a good lead? Like how quickly should they convert? What's the percentage? Like, again, if you took your ideal client and they said, hey, Luke, I got an unlimited budget. You tell me what will work. I need to close 10 units a month. I'll do the system the exact way you want. Like what's an ideal lead and what's the flow for that?
Well, so in my opinion, a bad lead is bad information, right? Okay. Bad email, bad phone number. That's really that's the definition of a bad lead. Another definition of a bad lead could be someone that's like, you know, maybe someone was advertising something like a giveaway or some crap like that. That's not related to the thing. But if they have the intent to buy and they want the thing you offer, that to me is a good lead. Whether they qualify or not are two separate things.
It's irrelevant.
And so again, like they want like this magical qualified pipeline of people that just comes in that's ready to buy. That is a referral. If you want to work referrals, then just continue to work referrals. Stop buying leads. If you think that that's what's going to happen when you buy leads, it's never going to happen. I'm sorry. You have to treat these a different way. The average conversion, if you talk about industry average, 1 to 3%. Most of these call centers, you know, it depends on if it's refi or purchase. Refis are going to convert at a higher percentage. Obviously, in a market like we're in, they're not. But in a general market, you know, refis can convert at 10%, stuff like that, right? Because again, they already are qualified.
Yeah.
You know, if you can get them a lower rate, it's pretty easy. When it comes to purchase, 3 to 5% ballers, right? Those people are crushing it. 5 to 10%, basically unheard of, right? So for every 100 leads you get, you're maybe going to convert 3 to 5. And again, this is kind of more like short term, 6 to 12 month range, right? There's people that are still following up with leads 2, 3, 4, 5 years old that are converting leads. Those typically don't get considered into that sort of a conversion process, right? And again, if you're not calling the leads, if you're not following a good process, if you're not getting them with the right real estate agent that can get them into contract, if you're not asking for docs back, if you're not pulling credit on the phone, or at least asking to be able to pull credit, you don't necessarily have to pull it right there on the phone. But if you're not asking for date of birth and social on the call, what's got them committed to you?
Nothing.
Why should they work with you?
Nothing. So, okay. So talk me through a couple more things here. Cause I'm a lead novice. I'm a relationship referral partner expert and a lead novice, like probably most are, right?
Right. Of course.
So the expectation needs to be 6 to 12 months minimum.
6 to 12 months. Well, really between 4 and 6 months is when your deals are going to start closing. Because you got to think about this from the perspective of like even referrals, especially in this market, are probably taking 90 to 180 days from pre-approval to close.
Yeah.
Right. And we're not talking like, because we're talking getting the contract. Like most of the time people are like, I close a deal in 30 days. I'm like, yeah, you close a deal from contract to close in 30 days. Anybody can do that. But we're actually not thinking about what is the actual buyer's journey across the entire realm of time. Like most of the time, people that are looking to start looking to buy 6 to 24 months before they're wanting to buy. They start going to Zillow, they talk to their parents, they talk to their friends, maybe their coworker just bought a house. Oh man, maybe I should buy a house too. So they start to do that research. And the truth is, real estate agents, for the most part, are used to that nurture process, right? They are doing a lot of that work that loan officers don't understand is happening in the background. They're nurturing them. They may be sitting around 6, 12 months. They're getting lists. What do they call the list reports, or the listings are getting sent to them. Things like that. They're being nurtured over time. And so when they get to you, they've been nurtured for 6, 12, 24 months even. And loan officers just don't understand that is the real buyer's journey. So understanding the buyer's journey will really shift the way you think about it. And then also from another perspective is, I see consumer direct as like 10 to 30% of your business max, but it's a form of leverage, right? It's a way for you to get in front of the consumer. You can then get it, you can send it out to your referral partners. And then we also think about lifetime value. It's not something that most loan officers are thinking about either. Like think about lifetime value. You acquire someone for, let's just say $10,000. But what if you had 5 or 6 transactions over the lifetime of this person? So whatever, it cost you $5,000 to acquire them, but you made $50,000. If you start thinking long-term, I'm going to retain this person. I'm building a pipeline. I'm building a book of business. It's funny. I was actually just going through a podcast with Todd Duncan. He was talking about, you could build $1 million a year business just working your book of business if you do it the right way.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because it's online leads it's all these technologies and tools and systems and scripts and CRMs. But the reality is it's actually what you've talked about is a lot of mindset.
Mostly.
Like long play versus short play, investing in something that you're not going to see a return on right now. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I think what happens is, and then add in social media and you get these social media self-proclaimed icons, right? People who are experts and they're not. And so they'll jump in and I'll jump on innocent, naive Shane and say, hey, looking to start doing online leads, would love your feedback. And these social media, quote unquote, experts that tried and failed after 3 months because they weren't committed to the process. They say, oh, online leads are terrible.
Yep.
They never convert. Oh, that technology doesn't work. And you go, oh, that's weird. I got a really good buddy who's been really successful, but I guess it doesn't work. Right. So I think it's really important to understand that there's a mindset thing here that's true just in sales in general that a lot of us forgot because it was so freaking easy in the last market cycle. 6 to 12 months. In fact, I know a guy who buys penny leads. Right. And these leads are the ones that were rejected or somebody else quit on.
Yep.
And they resold the lead for like 7 cents. They might have bought it for $2 or $5 a lead. It didn't convert. And so he buys them for like 7 cents a lead, knowing that it's 24 months, 36 months, 40 months. He really doesn't care because he gets it. That's a long play. And to your other point, it's not his entire business model. He's got like things that are brewing right now. It's like if you run a restaurant, you're constantly cooking things at different temperatures because you have different courses coming out. And you're not bringing the 5th course out at the same time as the 1st course. You turn down that heat a little bit. That might be a little slower burn. Talk through some kind of best practices for people who want to jump in and like things that like they absolutely need to do. Talk about like how long you should be willing to commit to your investment, how often you should be getting in front of people and things like that from what you've seen that works.
Sure. So a couple things. First,
I don't want to take your secret sauce.
No, I don't care.
Okay.
I don't care. There's no secret sauce. You just got to work, to be honest. Like most people just aren't willing to do the work that's required. And they're looking for something that like, and I've heard this multiple times. I just want something that can get me couple more loans a month, just automated. Doesn't exist. I'm sorry. It doesn't exist. And if that's what you're looking for. Well, it does if you want to
go work for Quicken.
But even then, like you realize Quicken, those guys are working 60 to 80 hour weeks.
Yes.
They're slave driving over there, right? Like our director of training that works with us, he calls it the dark place because it was such a, but at the same time, like he learned core skills. And I think consumer direct, I know people like to talk trash about, call center LOs or just headset jockeys. Like I'm sorry to most LOs out there, they would sell the crap out of all of you guys. Every single one of you guys that talks crap about them, they would sell the lights out above you. And I no offense. Again, there's just a whole different skill set. And again, just like you became a loan officer, you didn't think you were going to become a good loan officer in 90 days. So how do you expect to buy leads and in 90 days learn a new skill set, which is learning how to convert online leads in 90 days? Like that just doesn't make any sense, right? Like this takes time. Like you have to understand that it's a different process. You have to fundamentally change the way you do business. And it's okay if that's not something you want to do, if you have call reluctance, if you're not willing to pick up the phone 6 to 12 times to call them, if you're not willing to call them within 60 seconds to 5 minutes, if you're not willing to do those things, it's totally okay. Just don't buy leads.
All right, so I'm going to cut you off here. So you just said a couple of tips. So be willing to call the lead. You said 60 seconds to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
What are a couple other things that the guys and gals out there that are really doing well with this, like you see they constantly do?
So there is a study that was done that calling someone within 5 minutes versus 30 minutes is 100 times greater chance of getting a hold of them, right? We see it all the time. People calling 24, 48 hours, sometimes never calling the leads, sometimes only responding to the people that respond to automations. And they're like, I didn't close any deals. Like you have 350 leads and you didn't call a single one of them. Like, how do you expect that's going to work? Like you can't do that with referrals. Why would you do that with online leads? Like anyway, sorry, I'm over here ranting. But the biggest things are calling quickly.
Okay.
Obviously leads come in overnight. You can't always call them right away. That's why there's automation. Automation is there to start conversations, is not there to convert. They start the conversation, you get right in there. You would be shocked the amount of times we see people not respond to text messages for hours, 5, 6, 7, 10 hours, 12 hours, or never at all. Like these people are literally raise their hand saying, I'm interested. Now they've actually responded to you saying, I'm interested, and you're still not calling them. And then you wonder why they don't convert, right? And I'll just tell a story about myself. I was going to get, I don't remember what it was, carpet cleaning or some sort of cleaning service. And I called the place. They took me to voicemail. I said, hey, we'll call you back in a little bit. I said, okay. I waited, 5-10 minutes, nothing. So I went on to the next listing and I called them. They answered the phone. I booked my appointment. They called me like 2 hours later. And I said, sorry, I already booked an appointment with someone else. She didn't try to sell me. She was like, oh, well, you know what? We could do da-da-da-da-da. Nothing. Just, okay, click. Do you know how many millions of dollars that company's missing out because one, they're not answering the phone, and two, they haven't learned how to handle objections? That's not someone that's not interested. I was a buyer. I bought.
Yeah.
Actually, it was a fridge repair. I ended up buying, and the people were more sketchy. I swear, these people had much better reviews than the people that I ended up working with.
And that's no different because having a lot of reviews is like having referrals that were coming in during a really easy season. Right. And so it's like you're living in that previous environment saying, well, I don't really need to do the phone or I don't need to refine these skills. And I think that that's super important. So you talked about quick to respond, having nurture campaigns through text, right? That are, again, they're not converting the lead. It's like they're warming up or keeping that lead warm enough so that when you call them, they're at least willing to have a conversation.
Right.
Having that long-term mindset versus a short-term, 6 to 12 months or more in some cases. And then it goes back to what I call it salesmanship, but it's how do you handle objections? What's your value proposition? What questions are you asking people? And how are you? And I'm going to be speaking at a conference talking about 3 things, and all 3 are relevant here. Your impact, your intentions, and your authenticity, right? Like, I don't want to work with a robot. Like if I called somebody and they're like, hey, super sorry, I didn't call you back 4 minutes ago. I have a 2-year-old. My 2-year-old's, crazy. She's running all over the place. Right. I instantly like that person more. Right. Cool. Not a call center. That's a person. That's a human. That's a dad. That's a mom. Right. The intent. What are you intending to get out of these conversations? Like if you're calling the person and you know that they're 6 to 12 months down the road, the intent isn't to convert them to doing an app necessarily today. The intent is, right?
Well, it is. It is.
Okay, if we get them tell me more on this.
If we get him on the call. So here's the thing. Like, we're the experts, right? So like, here's the thing. Like, yes, some people are going to be 6 to 12 months out, and they probably aren't going to pick up the phone until they're ready, right? So that's kind of what I was talking about.
Okay, so can we pause then and go back to that? So
sure.
Because again, I'm not an expert on this. So you're saying that like you're texting, you're emailing, you're calling, they're not picking up. They're not picking up. How many times are you typically like, are you calling once a month? Are you calling once a week?
After the so the first like week, we recommend 6 minimum times, but 6 plus times, right? 6 to 12 times.
So nearly every day you're calling that first week.
Yeah. So the first day we typically recommend, I don't know if you're familiar with, but doing either a double tap or a triple tap on the first call, right? So you do, we call the bulldog call, where you just double tap, triple tap. So you just call, they don't answer, you hang up, you call right back. They don't answer, you hang up, call right back. A lot of times they'll pick up on the second or third time. Because they're like, oh man, this must be serious because they're calling me multiple times. On the third time or the second time, you leave a voicemail, move on, right? You call them one more time that day if you can, and then basically once a day for the next couple days, right? Maybe twice for a couple of those days. Depends on how you want to do your cadence. Some people are more aggressive. We just typically say, hey, you know what? The quicker you can get to them, the less time you actually have to spend following up, because the quicker you can contact them, now you don't have to do 6 or 12 touches. Maybe you only have to do 1 to 2 touches because you've got them the instant they come in, right when they're hot, right when they're ready to move forward. And then again, I mean, if they get on the call and they're like, oh, I'm 6 to 12 months out, or I have a lease, just get around it, right? Like, oh, cool. So like, when does your lease expire? Oh, well, actually, do you know if there's any way that you can get out of a lease? If we were to find you, and then again, this is later in the conversation, but if we were able to find you a home at the price that you need, how soon would you want to move forward? Most of the time, they're going to say now, right? So instead of saying, what's your timeline? Because if you say, what's your timeline?
Yeah,
they're going to say 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
But that's because we haven't engaged the emotional trigger. Like, if we could find you the house with the right payment, when do you want to move? Today. Great. Awesome. So you don't have to wait 6 to 12 months. What I'm hearing is
if they're picking up that phone, they are ready to buy. It's your job, like, to either win or lose that deal, because if they're picking up the phone, that is them like raising the flag of I am
as long
open.
As they're qualified.
Yeah, that's saying I'm ready to roll. Okay, and that's
as long
that's
as
good to know.
As long as they're qualified, right? So like, again,
yes.
What I'm not saying is push someone into a product they shouldn't be in. What I'm not saying is put someone in a bad situation. I'm not saying sell someone that really needs maybe they should get their credit up 30, 40, 50 points. What I'm saying is, you're the expert. You understand the huge value in the mortgage in buying a home, and what the cost of waiting is, right? So show them why they don't know anything about the mortgage transaction. So why are we assuming that the consumer knows best? The consumer does not know best. So if you've understood that they qualify monetarily, they have the credit, they have the income, it's your dude. Do you think Rocket Mortgage is going to be like, oh sure, go wait 6 to 12 months? No, they're going to freaking take an application on the phone in the first 7 minutes. They're going to make sure that they get with a real estate agent. They're going to make sure that they get docs uploaded, maybe even that same day, maybe even while they're on that first phone call. And they're going to put 2 points in origination on the back end. So as a loan officer, if you believe your service is actually better for them than Rocket Mortgage or Veterans United or Navy Federal, like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you need to care about your consumer. And if you don't care and you want to be an advisor, like, that's BS. I'm sorry, because that just means you don't care and you're not willing to stand for what you believe in, and you're not willing to sell them into what they should be doing. Well, again, this is not saying you put them in a bad situation.
Yeah,
this is ethical sales.
I think there's a counter argument that it's not that they don't care, it's that they're insecure in their own value.
Of course,
right?
Of course.
And so, like, we have many people who they do care. Now,
of course, I agree.
But they don't care enough to perfect their craft.
Right.
Or they're more apt to avoid the pain
sure.
than they are to like go towards like the refinement and doing those things. It's no different than sports, right? Those who are willing to say, hey, I'm not great today, but I will be. I'm going back to the gym. Those are the ones that are going to win. Yep. Those are like, I just want to avoid that. I'll do the bare minimum. They're not going to win. Like they can get by on their skill alone through high school. Yep. They're not becoming college athletes. They're not becoming pro athletes. Just no different than this market. This is a pro athlete market right now.
Right.
If you're not a pro athlete, you're not winning in this market. Whereas you could be a great high school athlete in the refi boom and you'd look like you were a pro athlete and you just really weren't. So I love that. Okay. So we talked about a double tap, triple tap. That's new. It's a new term for me. We talked about like once a day, more or less for the first week. And then after that, once a month phone calls.
Well, so depends, right? So it's typically like 6 to 12 touches in the first week.
Okay.
That doesn't include, also you have automation running in the background.
Okay,
After
so
that,
that's
you
6
typically
to 12 non-automated, right? Like that's
6 to 12
organic. Okay.
calls.
Plus automation. Okay.
Plus automation that's going out there trying to get them. Again, these people ask for information, right? I'm assuming that we're not just cold calling a list out of the book. Because you're doing that that's probably not okay. But these are people that literally raise their hand. The stuff we generate is 12 to 15 pieces of information. You don't accidentally fill in a questionnaire with 12 to 15 pieces of information and aren't interested. I'm sorry, that's BS. It's a fear-based response that is called a brush-off objection or a smokescreen objection.
Okay, so hold on. So I'm sorry, I'm interrupting a lot. This is really interesting. You just said, so your funnel that you believe in, you've refined over years, you said it's 12 to 15 pieces of information.
Yeah.
So it's not the autofill Facebook form?
Nope.
Okay, so that's another thing that's really important for somebody brand new to online lead gen is you're asking for a lot up front. So the assumption then is they actually are, like to your point earlier, and again, we probably should have gone to that point at the beginning.
Right.
These are people who have spent a decent amount of time answering questions. Like if they're unaware that they filled out a mortgage form, it would be nearly impossible.
Right.
Okay, that's interesting.
Pretty much. Well, and so here's the theory behind it, not the theory, but the actual practicality of it is like when I first got started, I thought loan officers need more leads, right? So I did generate those short form name, email, phone number leads. Great, cool. Realized pretty quickly people didn't convert those well. Those, again, like you said, people are still buying aged leads. They're buying those types of leads, name, email, phone number, and they're converting. It's probably going to be like a 0.5% conversion, but you're also going to get them at a considerably less cost.
It's a numbers game for these guys.
Right. So cost per acquisition starts to decrease. That being said, there is also an opportunity cost in doing those. So unless you have like a call center team that's going to be dialing those, it's making, basically getting paid on appointments and stuff like that, you're better served filtering more. And because here's what we're doing with the filtering is we're creating friction in the process. The more friction you create in the process, the higher levels of intent there is, right? Because they've then sat through and they filled out all this information. We also segment credit. So like 620 and below, less than 5,000 in down payment, and less than 50,000 in income go into a different pipeline altogether. So we're going to say, focus on the people that are most likely to qualify.
And again, those are a part of your 12 to 15 question upfront. Okay.
Correct. Credit score, things like that. It's self-reported. So, 620 and below is probably going to be, 580 and below, right? If we're just being honest. But again, I mean, those are all things. They've filled this information in and they're requesting information. Right. So again, the first thing that people that aren't used to these types of leads is they said they're not interested. This is a bad lead. No, this is a fear-based response. They don't want to be sold. What happens when you walk into a retail store and they're like, hey, can I help you find anything? No, I'm good. But what if you actually did know exactly what you wanted, but you don't know where it was? You're just going to walk aimlessly around the store because you don't want to get sold. It's a pre-programmed response that comes from years and years and years of sales, right? And old school sales, right? The old school sales where you get shamed into buying, you get buyer's remorse, things like that. That's not what I'm talking about by any means. I talk about us using Socratic dialogue, asking first, second, third level questions, understanding their emotional pains and emotional whys, and using that to craft a picture that says, hey, what's better, the hell that you're in right now or the heaven of your future opportunities? And then you show them the bridge, which is your solution. That's what sales is. Sales is not pushing someone into a product that they shouldn't be in. But if you, again, as the mortgage expert, know that this person qualifies, all that sort of stuff, and waiting 6 to 12 months could actually cost them $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in appreciation and things like that, and potential costs because we don't know what rates are going to be like. There's a whole slew of things, right? There's a cost of waiting. So why are we letting the consumer decide when they don't know any of those things?
Well, that goes back to intent, impact, and authenticity.
Of course.
I mean, there are markets where you'd say, hey, if I'm being authentic and I live in, I don't know, I'm just making this up. Let's say Vegas. And I know that the values in Vegas are overinflated by 10%. We know historically they're going to drop. We see some indicators. We go, hey, next couple months, it's probably going to drop. Me being the authentic guy is going to say, Luke, here's the deal. You love Vegas. I love Vegas. We really want to live in Green Valley. And that market is pretty unique. However, it looks to be overinflated by about 7%. Here's what we think will happen in the next 6 to 12 months. But let's do the math and just see how that pencils out. Right now, you start to educate and really give these people the answers. Now they go, wow, that guy actually cares about me and what I'm doing. That's being authentic, right?
Yeah.
And that's not selling a guy a gym membership who the thing he needs to do is like, he probably needs to like get gym shoes first, right? He's going to work out in his flip flops. So I think that's really important. And it's a really good point. So, all right, closing this out, there's some themes that I'm hearing as a guy who's never bought online leads and is a rookie here. First and foremost, having that plan in advance, committing to the plan and working the plan, with a majority of that being like getting on the phone. Like, it's your job, or Zoom or whatever, but it's your job to have face-to-face or voice-to-voice organic interactions with these people. Then once you do that, you have to ask probing, good strategic questions. You have to have responses for those questions and their objections, right? And you got to be willing to play the long game. And if you're willing to do that, if you're willing to do those things, you have a system, and you've leveraged a third party who can help you get there quicker, sooner, faster, more successfully, convert at 3%, not 1%, right? Because that matters when you're in our business making $5,000 to $15,000 a deal.
Right, exactly.
Well, in closing, man, what would you say for those out there who maybe they tried it before, maybe they've never tried it, they don't really know where to start, but they know that like it resonates, where they go, yeah, he's right. I would love to have 30% of my business coming in from something that I control. Because what we haven't talked about, and it's probably another podcast, is having that lead that you can then give to a referral partner.
Yes.
There's even more power in that. And so now that lead that I'm getting paid on, I'm not only getting paid on that lead, that's also an item of value, not a real item of value that it's a compliance violation, but it's an item of value to building a relationship.
Right.
And then you get more organic referrals, which we would agree are easier on our end, right? Not overall. Somebody else has been working that lead for 6 to 12 months. But what would you tell that person that's new or is resetting their mind on online lead gen?
Well, here's what I'll say. If you are new, I don't suggest buying leads. Unless you somehow have experience working leads in maybe a different industry, maybe you came from car sales or something like that, right? That would be the only sort of exception to the rule. The biggest thing, again, is you need long enough runway. 6, 12 months is kind of where you start to see the fruits of your effort. And if you aren't able to sustain that runway long enough, you're going to quit, and then you basically wasted money, right? Because like 3 months, sorry, is not going to be enough, especially if you're not if you're not planning on doing the work, don't buy leads. If you're not planning on calling 6 times, at least don't buy leads. If we typically like to work with people that are closing $1 million plus a month, honestly, because again, we understand that it takes that amount of time. It takes runway. It takes time before you start closing consistently. And as you said, the goal with consumer direct, at least the way I see it, is not so much to get rich off consumer direct. It's to use it as leverage to gain more referral partnerships. Because like, how many real estate agents have ever gotten a referral from a loan officer? Very, very, very few.
Rare.
And so if you're able to do that, again, we talk about this all the time. Real estate agents want one of two things. They want you to help them save time, or they want you to help make more money. They don't care that you know guidelines. Yes, they say that because that's what they've been programmed to say. Yes, they say that they want you to answer the phone. Yes, because that's what they've been programmed to say. The truth is, you should be doing those things anyway. That's your job. That is not your value proposition. That is your job. Do your job well. And if you want to compare yourself to the 80% of people that suck, fine. I want to be elite. So I'm never going to compare myself to the bottom 80%. I want to be the top 1%. And what does the top 1% do? They don't compare themselves to the bottom. They get better every single day. Right?
I'll close with this. I want to be a pro athlete playing a high school football game. That's easy. Right? You're winning. You win every time. And I think that comes down to, knowing your craft, being committed, playing the long game, being strategic with your finances so that you can invest in future revenue.
Sure.
Right? Both of my grandparents were farmers, and you had to plant the seed, water the seed, and till that soil well before you ever got the fruits of your labor. And yet now, we expect it to be different. We expect instant gratification.
Yep.
And the reality is that that's just not true. But if you work the process the correct way with the correct people, it can have an incredible result. And I know you've seen this with your clients.
Yep.
Luke, if people want to reach out to you outside of Next Level, which they should just go to becomenl.com, join Next Level. It's free. Luke is there with all of our friends and 2,500 plus other members. Outside of that, how do they find you?
Yes, I'm on social media. I think I'm the only Luke Shankula out there. So if you If you just look for me, I'm at L Shankula on Facebook. That's my main platform, but I am posted on all the other platforms. You can reach out to me really anywhere. There's loansondemand.io, or you can go to flipthestatusquo.com. That's a cool little redirect
Like
that goes
that, man.
To the same one. Yeah, because ultimately, right, like that's our goal, is to help loan officers flip the status quo on real estate agents, not so that they're above them, but so that they are partners, true partners that are able to give back to their partners, right, and just have that different relationship. Those are the main places you can find me. Again, I'm super active on especially Facebook.
Love it, man. Well, thank you guys for listening in. This was great. I learned a ton. And it's sometimes what you should do. Maybe it's sometimes what you shouldn't do.
Yep.
And both are equally important. We'll see you guys on the other side. Thanks again, Luke.
Thank you.